Hi, Russell Sturgess here again with my new blog. This week I'm wanting to have a look at relationships and spirituality with a particular emphasis on the issues around domestic violence, but I don't want it to be all about that. One of the things I want to really address is really the whole spectrum disorder of relationship disturbance. And of course, the worst end of that is murder. And of course, we've got some really serious statistics here in Australia now where it's about one person a week being murdered by somebody who they are currently or have been in relationship with in domestic situations. And some of the stuff that I was reading suggested that we're quickly heading up to that being two. But on this sort of spectrum disorder, we also have reports of domestic violence. So in 2015, just in the state of New South Wales alone, there were over 27,000 reports to police of domestic violence. And that's just one state. And we see billions of dollars of resource and not to mention the human factor of the pain and the distress and the destroying of healthy programming for children, all taking place within the context of this. I do want to give it some context, and that is the idea that this is a spectrum, and the spectrum has to do with the concept of what's called form and content. The content to domestic violence, obviously, on one level or another, is anger. But there's a whole spectrum in which anger can be manifested in. So in a relationship situation, it could be somebody holding their breath and counting to 10 and actually not acting out. It could be somebody throwing a fry pan at somebody or throwing something on the floor and smashing it. It could be somebody punching somebody else or physically slapping or hitting another person. There's so many ways that this can be expressed. The interesting thing is that the same amount of anger that somebody demonstrates in counting to 10 and holding their breath could also be the amount of anger that's behind somebody actually murdering another person. I know that seems incredulous, that it's hard to believe that that's possible, but the fact is it is. And of course, what it means is that there's a whole lot of extenuating elements that support how somebody chooses to act. And of course, that comes from what drives people by virtue of what their desires are. What is it that they want in the world? What is it that they value? So their value system comes into play. And all of these things then begin to have an impact on how people act out in relationship. Okay. What I'm suggesting is that the solution for this is a spiritual solution. And we need two things, and that is, what is it that is required in terms of character in order for this to change, and how is it that you actually develop those attributes of character? And I'm going to suggest to you that the two core elements that are absolutely necessary for harmony in any relationship, but particularly harmony within intimate relationships, with close relationships, whether that's husband and wife, partners, or whether that's also with extended family or children. It's about having compassion and empathy. When compassion and empathy are infused into your psyche, there's nothing that you will do to harm another. And more to the point as well, there's nothing that you'll do to harm yourself. And so what we have is a very clear sense that these two attributes, compassion and empathy, are going to be the things that enable you to deal with anger in a way that doesn't deny it, but accesses it and responds to it in a way that is loving to yourself and loving to another. Okay, so the key then is, how do we develop empathy and compassion? Now, in the blog that I've written, I've given you a couple of really lovely short video links that I'd love you to go and have a look at that describe these two elements beautifully. The first one being is how we can become more mindful about being able to act more compassionately And then the second video looks at the whole idea that compassion and empathy is a natural outward manifestation of awareness, and from awareness, this ability to live mindfully. Ultimately, the greater awareness that we have, and the more that that awareness is centered in a desire for stillness, the greater we have the capacity to naturally develop compassion and empathy. And that comes out of the mindfulness that arises out of awareness. It's an interesting concept, but ultimately it's a simple formula. The more aware we become, the more mindful we become, the more mindful we become, the more compassionate and empathetic we are. And when we're able to live with a sense of empathy and compassion, there is no inclination to want to hurt another or to hurt ourselves. And so the issues that we're dealing with, and I really believe that the issues that we're dealing with in terms of the violence that we're seeing, one punch kills violence, domestic violence, is actually a reflection of the spiritual disease that exists within our society. I hope that you enjoy the blog. Once again, I'm not going to be backward in saying that EAP, the Enhances Awareness Program, is one of the tools that's out there that's able to help people develop that awareness that's necessary for being able to be more mindful and conscious of who you are physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in the world. If you want to know more, please contact us at eapmentor.com, or if you want to make any comments about this blog, I'd love to see them on the blog on the website. Anyway, we'll catch you next time. Thanks for taking the time to listen.